So I had somebody over the house that I hadn't met before, a chatty kind of gal. She followed me into the kitchen and she was talking, and I can't do two things at once in general. So I remember being at the sink and starting to wash the dishes as she's chatting to me. And I pick up the wooden spoon and I looked at it and I thought, I don't know what to do with it. I just became overwhelmed by a wooden spoon.
I am here today with Terry Matlen. Terry is a psychotherapist, consultant, and ADHD coach who's a pioneer when it comes to our understanding of ADHD in women. Terry is the author of the books The Queen of Distraction and Survival Tips for Women with ADHD. She's also featured in Understood's limited series podcast, Climbing the Walls, which is about the rise of ADHD in women during the pandemic. Terry, welcome. How are you?
I'm great, and it's so nice to be here. Thanks, Laura.
Oh my gosh, I'm so happy to have you here. I want to let our listeners and viewers know that the show Climbing the Walls, which you were interviewed for and you're featured in, you actually, without knowing it, coined the title of that show. It came from a conversation that you had with the host of Climbing the Walls, Danielle Elliott. And if anybody listening or watching hasn't seen that or listened to that podcast yet, please do it. It's amazing. But Terry, do you want to explain where the idea of climbing the walls came from, what it references?
With my ADD, I will do my best because this was a while ago. I work a lot with moms with ADHD, and being a mom myself, my kids are now young adults, but I remember how difficult it was being a mom with ADHD, raising kids, one who has ADHD and other special kinds of issues. And the pain that I felt and the discomfort and the stress of just being a mom, period, with ADHD, but you add in the two kids, one who had these, issues. I remember saying barely, because you guys did remind me, but yeah, I did say I was climbing the walls. And so many of the women that I work with who are moms will say, something very similar, like it is so hard.
Yeah. I remember speaking to you about how much shame that you were dealing with as a mother, as a wife, I believe. Are you open to talking about that? The gendered layer for women with ADHD?
I'm pretty much an open book because what I find is when I talk about this openly, about my own experiences, it gives permission for other women to not only talk about it, but before that, to access those feelings that they have within themselves. This shame thing just travels with us if we don't understand and work through these feelings. The big one for me was, why can't I figure out how to make dinner every night? Yeah. I would just get so frustrated that, I would take a spoon and just slam it on the table because whatever I was able to make, which would typically be pretty simple kid-friendly meals, one of my two kids, that's 50% of, my kids, would say, ugh, I don't like that. Or, ew, we're having meatloaf again. Maybe I made it 3 weeks ago. And it was just intolerable. And because of my sensitivity, and all of us, I believe, with ADHD are sensitive souls, I took it really hard because I could see my sister-in-law is an incredible cook. I remember thinking not long ago, we were on a phone call, and as she's talking to me, she's cooking. And I thought, how does she do that? I can talk to nobody. I can have nothing, no TV, no radio, nothing. And I struggle. And the shame that I felt back before I understood my ADHD was so immense that I couldn't do what my family, member women in my family, neighbors, friends. Why is it that they could just seamlessly get through life and feel good about themselves? We don't really know what goes on, but they could do these things without having to put timers on, make notes, ask somebody, will you remind me to turn the oven off? Or, any of those things. It's just, this is what you do. That doesn't happen. It didn't happen for me. And for many women with ADHD, we're not on automatic pilot.
I remember having a conversation with you about that wooden spoon.
Oh, gosh.
And it really resonated with me the last time we chatted. You've mentioned it as kind of being a big aha moment for you, the kind of like you're looking at the
was.
spoon, right?
Yeah, so I had somebody over the house that I hadn't met before. It had something to do with my daughter. And I had her over for dinner, which was a huge thing for me, having dinner for someone I don't even know. I was able to pull that off pretty well. And then, I was clearing the table and she followed me. She was a chatty kind of gal. She followed me into the kitchen and she was talking, and I can't do two things at once in general. So when people say that people with ADHD can multitask, well, that's not the case for me and for many of the people I work with. So I remember being at the sink and starting to wash the dishes as she's chatting to me. And I pick up the wooden spoon that I use for cooking this meal, and I looked at it and I thought, I don't know what to do with it. I can't sort things out. She's coming at me with, one side, the spoon is in front of me, and I washed it. I could get that far, but then what do I do with it? I just became overwhelmed by a wooden spoon.
Didn't you throw it too? I'm sorry, Terry, I'm exposing you here.
I remember. I've done that with other things and other situations. Yeah. I think this happened before I was diagnosed. I didn't know what was wrong. I didn't know what was going on.
The stress of the mundane, especially as a woman, and the feeling that not only this is a basic object, any human should know what to do with this right now, but also as a woman, I'm supposed to be really good with this particular object and really good at carrying on a lovely conversation while making a lovely meal. And then the emotional compounding of all that is just so... I think that people underestimate how overwhelming that can be.
I totally agree with you. We hide. Even after being evaluated, treated, and the understanding that I have, because this is my life, this is not just, my own personal world. It's the work I do, but it's something I'm constantly working on. A lot of it has gotten way, way, way better. But sometimes I get into a situation where, all those old feelings come back up. Like, why can't I figure out what to wear to this event I'm going to? This Sunday, I've got an event. That's one of my areas of non-expertise. What do I wear to these things? I want to look right. Is this the right outfit? And then I have to tell myself, wait a second, calm yourself down. It's not the end of the world. It's because you are overwhelmed by wanting to do the right thing, because most women would easily go into the closet, figure out what to wear. That's this area of weakness for me, but that's okay. And this is how I walk myself down from this, is I try to remember the things I do well.
So talk me through the ADHD challenges that might lead to a moment of, what do I do with this spoon?
So executive functioning, which is how to get from A to B and B to C. And it sounds so easy. Like, okay, so I have a spoon in my hand. That means I wash it, I dry it, I put it in the drawer. I knew to wash the spoon. I was overwhelmed by another stimulus, and I may have been a little bit uncomfortable because I didn't really know this person. So there's all these things coming into play. So for me, and for a lot of women with ADHD, we get overwhelmed easily by stimulation. And that, for me, one of them is constant barrage of words and anything having to do with steps. So in this situation, I'm a little already uncomfortable. I have what felt like a hammer, hitting me over the head with all these words. I'm looking at a spoon. I want to make a good impression. I want to look normal because I know there's something about me that's not really normal. What do I do next when all of these things are hitting me? Then I have two young kids in the next room. They're probably making noise. I have a husband, and I don't know, where he is with all of this. Yeah. So it was a sense of overwhelm. And that sense of overwhelm is so common with us but it generally has a lot to do with executive functioning. It has a lot to do with self-esteem, wanting to make a good impression, wanting to fit in. And many of us don't feel like we fit in, especially if you haven't been diagnosed and treated and gotten support. Support is huge.
So the executive function challenges causing the overwhelm, but also emotional regulation is another executive function.
Yeah.
So the thing that you're struggling with is also the thing that's causing you to get maybe having trouble managing your emotions around the thing that is happening.
Yeah, and then as things escalated, like I'm really literally looking at a spoon while this woman is talking and talking and talking, and then I have to start thinking, well, what's wrong with me? What's wrong with me?
Yeah.
Frustration, like she's talking too much. I want her out of my face.
Yeah.
You're probably right. I probably at one point did throw the thing in the sink because I lost it.
I mean, I wasn't there, Terry. I just remember you saying something.
I don't think I was there. I was so out of it. I think I would have done something like that, there's been many incidents where that sense of overwhelm, this dysregulation of emotions and mood can cause us to do things that we wouldn't dream of doing.
I know.
I did that. I can't believe it.
I relate to that so much. I would guess that the majority of the shame that I've felt in my life has been around reactions that I've had to that kind of overwhelm. It's like you get the stimuli that are coming at you all at once, and it's almost like you want to swat them away like a fly. But it might be there's a person that you care about. There's your child, right? And when I say swat, I don't mean physically swat away. I mean just like stop talking or stop sending me texts. You know, I have to take off my watch when I'm doing these interviews, because if I get a message, it'll buzz my hand, and then I can't unfeel that, and I can't get back to the conversation.
What really bothers me is when people assume that you can just turn that switch.
Yeah.
Because they think you can. Well, just don't pay attention to, like right now, earlier today, I was on a call, and the lawn people were all over my neighborhood, and I'm looking out, and you know, just stop looking out the window, or, you know, stop what you're doing so you can pay attention to what I'm saying with my family. They don't get it. And that can lead to what you're talking about, a lot of self-doubt and shame and that whole thing of what's wrong with me? What's wrong with me?
Yeah.
It's the struggle.
And then the rumination of how do other people view me? How did other people view my reaction to that? And then it can be vicious. You eventually did get diagnosed in the early 90s, I think you mentioned.
It was the early 90s. And so I live in the Detroit area, and I'm very fortunate. It's just one of these things that there's a number of ADHD professionals who even back then were in my neighborhood practically.
Michigan, a hotbed for the burgeoning study of ADHD back in the day. And still, it sounds like,
But I should start off with what exactly happened that made me finally go into that, search for a professional. I was on the telephone talking to somebody. Whomever I was talking to, I couldn't hear them. Physically, I could, but I couldn't hear what they were saying because there was noise on that person's side and noise on my side. And probably one of my kids was doing whatever. And I couldn't filter out again. Here we go. And talk about emotional dysregulation. I was furious with myself, furious with the world. And nobody understood this because I would ask, did you ever have this problem where you can't talk on the phone because you can't really get to what they're saying? No, I can. So that's what tipped it over for me. I had to figure it out. Is my hearing wrong? So I started off, forgot about this part. I started off by going to an audiologist.
Oh, I didn't know that. I don't remember that. Okay.
I totally forgot about that. Yeah, so I went to probably an ENT doctor, and they gave me a hearing test, and they said, oh, your hearing is better than average for someone your age.
Wow.
I said, then what is this? And they said, I don't know. Because back then, they probably didn't know anything about what we now call auditory processing disorder, which is a separate thing, often seen with ADHD, by the way. The filtering is being distracted.
The processing, right?
And the processing.
It's funny, too, because people, when we create content for parents, for instance, when we're really talking about, does your child follow directions? Most parents will say, they just don't listen. It's not really about hearing or listening. It's really about, are they following the directions? Are they able to process those multiple steps?
There's a lot going on in this thing. It's not as simple as you're distracted.
Yeah.
So I did well on the test. And then the next step was, I'm getting some ideas from the book I read. I'm getting some ideas from how my daughter behaves. I think it's time to find out, now that I know a little bit about ADHD, to find somebody who's an expert. And I did. And he was just a couple miles away from me, a PhD psychologist who happened to be a pioneer in the field of just adult. Well, he worked with kids, but he also opened up his practice to adults. And that was the only person I knew who would evaluate, at least in my area. And so I went to him and got the diagnosis of ADHD. And
at that time, was it ADD? We
called it ADD back then, and that's what literally changed my life. That now there was a medical explanation for some people might have said quirkiness, what I felt as a shameful, almost disabling. Well, sometimes it was disabling. It was, and a source of such, bad stuff.
And how did you take advantage of that diagnosis? Did you tell people about it? Did it help you access treatment? Did people take it seriously? I have so many questions.
Compared to the women I've worked with, and it's been almost about 25 years now, my story is a little bit different. Unlike most of the women who say, they'll say when they get the diagnosis, shame comes back, disbelief, there's something wrong with me. And the big one is, look at all the years that I've missed.
Yeah.
All the lost years in my life. For me, it was very different. For me, it was, woo! Now I get it. Now I have an answer to my questions. I didn't look back. It's, I know what I'm going to do with my life now. Once I learned more about it first, so I went and, I had therapy. I tried medication. ADHD coaching was in its infancy. I just took it and ran. So my decision was I want to help other people, particularly women, because women were really just, weren't acknowledged, weren't understood. We weren't, all the things we're talking about that cause us such shame. Nobody looked at that. Eventually, once I felt more confident and went back to the psychologist who diagnosed me, I asked him, can I sit in on your evaluations and can you mentor me so I can learn how to take this into a private practice?
And what were some of the insights that you were gathering sitting in with that psychologist or elsewhere?
It was really tricky because I have to say a good therapist who does evaluations really has to dig deep. The big thing is to be able to differentiate symptoms you see in ADHD that can be explained by other conditions. You can see those kinds of symptoms in depression. You can see them in anxiety, substance abuse, trauma. Trauma I'm very, very interested in lately. There's so many things in common with a person who's had early trauma. Because we would talk afterwards and he would say, see this person we just saw together? Well, she had this happen to her and there's some of these other symptoms that might explain it better as, let's say, bipolar disorder or whatever. And then he explained how you figure it out. And, it's a tremendous amount of work.
I'm curious if you could give us a few examples of what you learned about how to tease things apart. And we can call this anecdotal so that people don't, run and diagnose themselves or other people with it. What are some specific things? And
I will be open in that I deal with anxiety as well. So one thing that's tricky that I learned is that you can have ADHD and a separate anxiety disorder, or you could have ADHD that creates anxiety because we're, anxious a lot of the time because are we doing this right? Are we going to, in the time management issues, I'm always late. I can't seem to get it together. I can't get the laundry done. I can't do I'm going to get in trouble with my boss. So there's a lot of anxiety in ADHD, but there's also a lot of anxiety in bipolar. When some people go into a manic state, there is anxiety. There's anxiety when you go into a depressive episode. Not for everybody. I can't, put everybody in one category. In substance abuse disorder, this is an area that's really sad because we have this still this attitude of, well, why don't you just get your act together? So there's a lot of anxiety and depression in that population. And what they're basically doing is they're self-medicating. And then we qualify that as having a weak character or whatever. And that's so wrong. Yeah. In so many different conditions, we see anxiety, we see depression. So let's see, in personality disorders, that's another one. ADHD can very much look like a personality. Oh, you're just narcissistic. All you do is think about yourself. Well, it may look like narcissism, but we are thinking about ourselves because we're always, what did I do wrong now? Who did I let down now? Yeah. And it looks like, it's about us. Well, no, it's not always about us. It's we want to do the right thing.
What did I lose? What did I forget?
We didn't get to the wedding on time because you were figuring out where your lipstick was.
Exactly. Yeah. Or the meal I made wasn't good because I threw that wooden spoon on the floor and it got all dirty.
You're stuck on that wooden spoon story. Oh my God, that's so funny.
I'm painting this picture. It's just so I love a vivid story that we can.
It's a great one.
Terry, what do you feel like people still don't get about women with ADHD?
Well, first of all, there's still a stigma. This is something I've been just hammering away at for all these years. There's still that stigma. And what they don't get is ADHD is overdiagnosed. You just say you have ADHD. Well, everybody has a little bit of ADHD, and we can still do all these things that you claim that are difficult for you. They don't understand. They don't understand how we hide because of the shame that we put on a happy face or we pretend. There's new hip words that I see in social media. One of them is masking.
Yeah.
So masking is a word that I never heard of, going through this whole thing. A lot of masking. Oh, yeah, sure. The teacher said she needs a volunteer to bake brownies for the fundraiser. And we all, with ADHD, well, sure, I'll do it. Well, now what? We got ourselves into hot water. And if we go to that person and say, I'd like to retract my my offer because, and then what do you say? I have ADHD. They don't get it.
Yeah, masking is a very real thing for sure.
It's a painful thing. It's very painful, and that's another thing that, as what you're doing at Understood, is educating people about something that's not just ADD. Oh, so what? Your kid has ADD. It can be a huge thing. It can knock us down.
And you talk a lot about, and you are a mom with ADHD, and you've been a stay-at-home mom, I believe.
Yeah.
We support many, many moms at understood.org, and being a mom with ADHD, and if you have kids with ADHD as well, is really, really hard. What you just said was so beautiful about women in general with ADHD, but I'm curious if you have any insights or anything that you would share with moms with ADHD. Because it can be so much to manage.
It is so hard. That's where my heart really belongs, is with the moms with ADHD, because I've talked to many women who have said going to work is a breeze compared to coming home and parenting. It's a breeze because there's structure. You get feedback. You know what's expected of you. You come home, and especially, like you said, if you have children or a child with ADHD, there are no rule books. There are no ways of dealing with certain behaviors. And with your own ADHD, connecting with a child's ADHD, it is really difficult. Yeah. So I would say ask for help. I write about this all the time. And I get a lot of flack from it because we know a lot of women don't have the finances, the ability to pay people to help. But if you can, give up the movie that you see at the theater, and it turns out, $50 because you're buying snacks and this and that. And instead get somebody to come into the house once every couple of weeks to clean it. I think doing all these things that women without ADHD can do, it's just too much for us. And letting go of those expectations, again, on women with ADHD, or women in general first, it's just a little too much for us with ADHD. So finding ways to get that kind of help, working with a coach, working with a professional organizer. Now, money is an issue for many, many, many women. So my take on that is, what about bartering? Let's say you're really good with animals, and a lot of us are animal lovers. I don't know why, but we are. Say, I will walk your dog 3 days a week, if you could just watch my kids for an hour while I run to the grocery store. It's too much to take them with me. They can't handle themselves, and then I can't handle them, and then I can't handle myself.
Oh, I love that. Yeah,
so bartering what you can do well with someone who can help you. To take advantage of family members who will, but you have to really reach out only to people who are non-judgmental, who get you. You don't want toxic help.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, 100%. Because then it just adds more, it just creates more overwhelm, and it's just one more thing to manage, and it's emotionally draining.
It's horrible. We already have enough of our own toxic self-shame and all that sort of thing. We don't need it from the outside. Yeah. So asking for help is big.
I like what you said about expectations. I think I've said this once before on the show, and I was worried that it came across as like, we should set low expectation for ourselves. That's not what I mean. I think that we should still want to do great things, and we can do amazing things. It's more about letting that pressure release valve open up. Be like, maybe I'm just not going to do the dishes every day, and they're just going to sit in the sink. And is that causing any major problems? Probably not. If they start to overflow and I get bugs, then that's a problem.
Yeah, it's changing your expectations of yourself. And it's exactly what you're saying. It's not going to kill anybody to hold off washing the dishes for a day or even 2 days. It's not going to kill anybody if you don't cook every single day, but you may, get carry out or get ready-made stuff at the market. I talk about, all the things you can do now. You can get bagged salad. You can get a rotisserie chicken. You can get a lot of things. And then we get into all this guilt which, you just gotta push it away. Well, I'm not feeding my kids fresh food. I'm not putting the food through the food mill and, making baby food from scratch. Sometimes we just have to take a step back. We can't be perfect. Nobody is. Nobody is perfect. And you can look at any human being and say, well, why aren't they doing this? Why aren't they doing that?
Terry, somebody got me one of those baby food makers when I had my first child, and I just regifted that thing right away. I was like, there's no way that I'm going to do that. Forget it.
I love you, Laura. I love you.
I mean, to be fair, I probably put it on my wish list, like for my baby shower with wide eyes and high expectations for myself. And then I took one look at that thing. I was like, I don't know where the hell to start with this. I'm not going to.
But it's interesting. The words that you use is really interesting to me. The wish list. Moms with ADHD, we have a huge wish list. But, we have to do what works for us, because if it works for us, it makes our kids and our family happier.
Terry, I love talking with you so much. I have one more question for you before we say goodbye for now. Mm-hmm. What are you most proud of in your career? I want you to brag a little bit.
I'm proud that I've helped change lives for the better. I have a Facebook group. It's free. And there are 37,000 women in that group. That whole thing says to me, I'm touching people's lives. I'm helping them in some way. I have a lot of volunteers. I can't handle that whole group to the volunteers, but I'm also proud of the 2 books that I wrote, because I get a lot of nice feedback from, especially my more recent book, The Queen of Distraction. And it's in different languages now. It's been translated. To think that that's out in the world, hopefully forever, and somebody's going to read it and say, oh, like what we're talking about. Oh, it's not just me. Oh, this makes sense. Oh, I can be okay with this. I really enjoy helping people. That's why I'm here.
We're so glad that we get to work with you, all of us at Understood, and you've just done so much for our community. We're really grateful to you. The books, for folks who want to check it out, The Queen of Distraction, and then your earlier book, Survival Tips for Women with ADHD. And definitely check out Climbing the Walls. Terry is featured in that limited series podcast. We couldn't have made it without you. Terry Matlen, thank you so much for being here with me today. I'm so grateful.
Thank you for having me. It was actually a lot of fun. So thank you for that.
I told you, we were going to have fun. This was the best part of my day.
Fun. Yeah, me too.
Yeah.